What up, nerds, and welcome to another sour episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 427, recorded Sunday, June 11th, 2023. Tonight we're talking about the latest from your boy Ted Geoghegan. The movie is Brooklyn 45. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randeezy. What's up?
And Old Glory waving.
How's it going, buddy? It's good to talk to you. It's good to see you again. It's been a while. How you been holding up? You been keeping it trim? You been looking good for the ladies? The Phillies are looking good for you?
Yes. The Phillies? What? Yes, they're looking great. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, you know. I'm leaning in here. I'm trying to get to the brain space of this film a little bit.
I like the cut of your jib, guy.
Oh, thank you.
It reminds me of a time that is past. A simpler time, yes.
One of the best bumps you'll ever use in the history of the show. Gaze
I won't argue with
it. The mustaches of the firemen. Last but not least,
Shoto Ghetto, love them.
Calling in from South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Kraut Stains. Bob, you're known to suck down a kraut dog from time to time. Is that right?
I like sauerkraut. Yes.
You do like monster German wieners. We all know this to be true.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a monster German wiener boy.
Get him.
All right.
Nay. He's a kraut.
Sauerkraut.
Oh, you're not just a kraut-sucking Nazi.
You know what they say, sweet meat, sauerkraut, boys.
Is that what they say?
That's what they say.
Oh, man. I don't know if I want to wander. I don't want to wander into a world where I have to know what that means.
Oh, you know what it means.
Oh, no.
Grow up!
Oh, boys. Sauerkraut's underrated. Get you some. Ooh, talking about Brooklyn 45.
Sauerkraut's a little bit like kimchi, eh, Bob?
It is very similar, indeed, yeah.
Whoa, look at us.
I know. We're both just still Americans who like to eat rotten shit.
Damn. Whoa, Bob.
It truly is the melting pot for disgusting pickled horse shit.
Oh, you like rotten shit? Me too. High five. Up top. Let's do it. Oh, man. Let's tackle a little bit of housekeeping real quick. We got our July poll currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this July. The theme for July is, it's Randy's Takeover Month. Randeezy, what's going on with our poll?
Well, you see, I decided that as somebody who is an animator by trade, partially anyway, I wanted to see some animated horror movies, and so that's it, really. There's a variance of different animated horror films, starting with The House, the Netflix film that came out just a year or two ago, Paprika, the anime film, and Watership Down, the noted film from, I think, the 70s.
Yeah. All right. Bob, how those numbers looking?
Yeah, okay. I'm going to start prompting you to prompt him. That's how this is.
Okay. Juice, tell Bob.
I'm not going to answer
Juice,
the question.
ask Bob how those numbers are looking.
Yes.
Bob, how those numbers looking?
Now I can answer the question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Paprika is still in first place. Watership Down and The House are tied, but they're way on back. It seems like there's a clear front runner this month.
Oh, yeah. I was looking I've seen like this movie. No, I haven't seen it, but I've seen like stills from Paprika. I was curious about this, like when you kept mentioning it. Okay. This is like some kind of infamous film that like I know the images of, but I've just never seen. Interesting.
See, you know more than me then, because the only image I know is the cover that's just like a very like colorful face. It's basically what I've seen. So,
I've definitely seen stuff from this. Okay.
Unless there's some crazy coup that happens and one of the others comes through, I guess we'll be seeing that one. Yeah. The weeaboos take it again.
The weebs. Fucking weebs. That's a word, right? I think so. I know waifu.
Yeah, I know
what that means now. I'm educated.
I'm sure you do, Bob. I'm sure you do.
You're getting married. You better figure that shit out quick.
Now I know what it means. I just discovered its meaning.
It's all coming clear. Make sure you get your votes in before the end of the month. We'll see what we're talking about this July. In other Patreon news, we just dropped a mini cast last Friday. I was talking about a new release called Malum. Also, I forgot we had like a lot of recorded audio from Ted Geoghegan's Q&A at the Brooklyn 45 screening from the Overlook Film Festival. So I'm going to be dropping that this coming Friday. So you're going to get a little bonus episode on Patreon this week. Friday, June 16th. Check that out over on our Patreon website. There's like 25 minutes that Ted did after the screening of this movie. And he talked about the origins of the script and how he worked on it with his dad. And just a lot of cool, interesting stuff. So check that out. And the audio quality is a little bit better on this one than the Nick Cage Q&A. For whatever reason, there's just less interference. So check that out.
Well, a little tribute for Diddy's Day then,
Diddy's Day. And then
a
after
little
that,
bonus material.
After that, you got three Fridays in a row you're getting bonus episodes on Patreon. After that, Friday, June 23rd, your boy Soju's talking about The Pope's Exorcist.
It's so funny because anytime I hear that title at first, I think it's a joke because we always used to call the police the popes. And so I always have to do a stop and be like, no, that can't be the title. No, it's the real Pope. Okay.
Not the joke Pope, the real Pope.
I always do this mental pause. I'm like, oh no, yep, that's okay.
It's one of those titles that's like the astronaut's wife, and it's like, oh, wait a minute.
The constant gardener.
I need to understand this relationship. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm too stupid to get that in an instant.
So that's old Russell Crowe. He's slinging demons around. So that's
slinging demons.
So that's should be
that's what I call bartending.
Yeah,
slinging demons. Oh man, my boy Rusty Crowe's just slinging demons all night.
Yeah,
check that out. Yeah, all the bonus shit over on Patreon every Friday this month. Apparently, that's what's happening.
Nice.
In other Patreon news, we are reopening the You Pick the Flick tier on Sunday, June 25th. If you are a new listener, this is the only way you can outright pick a movie for us to review on the show. It's very limited. We open this tier once a quarter. There's only 5 spots per quarter. And we open it at an undisclosed time of day. So you just have to refresh your browser, check our Patreon website, and if it is open, go ahead and try and grab a spot. They tend to go fairly quickly. So mark your calendar so you don't forget Sunday, June 25th. You pick the flick. Yeah.
All right.
Nice. Exciting. Very exciting.
Yes.
You pick some good ones, please.
Please. Or don't, but also please do.
please do pick some good ones.
You don't have to, but please do.
We'll judge your character upon
we
which
ain't too proud to beg.
Pick.
If you pick a shitty movie for us to review, we're going to review your character.
We're going to review
you as a person, as we do the directors on this show.
This director is a real piece of fried dog shit.
I know because I watched this film.
I've seen this film and it's pretty easy to tell that this person deserves jail time.
I know.
Actually, there has been instances where that is true. So,
yeah,
I can see they're of low moral character. Okay,
that has happened at least once, where we watched a movie and then found out, jail time.
Should we all be in jail or just the director? Just the director.
Just the director.
Not me.
We're
never me.
Movie critics and character critics. So keep that in mind. That's it for Patreon. I know you guys got some shit to plug. Randeezy, why don't you go? You really have some shit. What are you doing?
You never do anything.
I don't do shit. I finally decided to pry my thumb out of my asshole this week, and I'm going to be guesting on our good friends A Cut Above's podcast that's dropping on Tuesday. Not out, so I guess it would be the day before this episode.
It is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I said Tuesday. I don't know. I was told Tuesday. I don't know if it's this Tuesday or next, but it's coming out. If it's not out, it's coming out. It's a an episode on Gemini Home Entertainment, the analog horror series on YouTube. I was invited on for my presumed expertise in that field, which don't exist. But I'm very excited to hop on and talk a little bit about, the undercurrents of horror that are happening on YouTube.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. So
Neither have I.
interesting.
Well, you will.
I'm glad they got the expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not me. Apparently
I'm
it's
here to
not
bring.
Randy.
Knowing of it is as much expertise as anyone has, I
That
think.
exists. Shit.
Ooh.
Okay, cool. Check out A Cut Above everywhere you get your podcast. Juice, what do you got?
So this week, I will be on the newest episode of Plug It Up. We are talking about Thirst. Just me and Caitlin talking about Thirst from Pak Chan-wook, and we've covered it on this cast, but me and her have a little bit more personal conversation one-on-one on that one.
Extra thirsty.
Oh yeah, extra thirst going on in that episode.
Cut the tension with a knife.
I know. And then also to just go ahead and I'll just probably be announcing it every week, but we do have that event coming up that's going to be at the end of July here in Seoul. So if you are in Korea or you think you might be in Korea, come hang out with us at the DCC Cafe, hosting it with the Dark Side of Seoul and DCC Cafe. It's called Summer Chills. We're going to be doing some screenings. That's going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Whispering Corridors. And that's going to be Saturday, July 22nd, starting at 7 p.m. is when the first showing is going to start. Of course, we'll be hanging out there beforehand. If you've never been to the DCC Cafe here in Seoul, it's a great board game cafe. They've got a great food there, and a lot of people are just always hanging out, playing games, and a bunch of comics there and stuff. So really great place to hang out. We'll be there hanging out and then watching some spooky movies for summertime, and that'll be perfect because we all know here spooky season starts July 4th, or July 5th, so I'll be ready to get that go.
Let's just moving on up to 4th. Fuck it.
Yeah, boy, fuck it. Yeah, I mean, Jaws. That's Jaws Day anyway.
For this theater is an American institution.
So,
Nice.
So that's going to be coming up next month. Excited for that, but I think that's all my housekeeping.
Squeaky clean.
Hell yeah.
His house is clean.
Let's get into the main event. We're talking Brooklyn 45, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob, I like your newest trend of the drawing your own little box covers for the
Yeah.
YouTube when you don't have the box.
When it doesn't exist,
Doesn't have the,
you just make your
when
own.
the box doesn't exist, you just invent a pornography and then draw that.
Yeah, called Brooklyn 69.
69. This is the porn knockoff version.
With the ghosty hand giving you a handy jade. I see
yeah.
it over there.
Extra,
Is it even cheating at that point? I would say no.
extra ectoplasm? You gotta. Ooh.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Like nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
Damn.
Sweet meat sauerkraut. Brooklyn 45. This was written and directed by your boy Ted Geoghegan.
Hey,
With a runtime of an hour and 32 minutes. I guess it's unrated. This is probably R-rated, but it doesn't actually say on IMDb. Maybe it's unrated.
yeah.
Yeah, I would guess. I guess from the violence, but I don't know. Hard to say, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got enough curse words
there's
for
some
the
harsh-
American system
yeah,
to
the
label
language, Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
it's got to be
it. Some
rated R.
slurs and shit.
Yeah. This stars, it's a small cast, Anne Ramsey, Ronnie Raines, Jeremy Holm, Larry Fessenden, Ezra Buzzington, Christina Klebe, and Lucy Karapetchan, probably is how you say that. Plot
Probably.
synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. 5 military veterans, best friends since childhood, gather together to support their troubled host, and the metaphoric ghosts of their past become all too literal. Gentlemen,
Through America's big gun, the nation roars, on guard!
I love these bumps. Have you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Rand Deasy, kick us off.
Yeah, astute listeners will know that you and I both have seen this before, Bob. We saw this at the Overlook Film Festival this year, earlier in the year. We got the lovely chance to meet Ted and talk to him about this. So I'm going to just front load this by saying, like, I like Ted, and old Chris Stuckman's getting a lot of shit for being biased now and being too light on people. That might be me this episode. I'm not going to deny a bias here. I want to like this.
This film is great.
Yeah. That said, I'm going to try and keep that quelled down, and I think legitimately this is a movie worth watching regardless of that. So,
yeah.
Yes, recommend.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
Well, I don't know Ted, so I'm going to be fully judging his character on this episode. So I hope he's prepared for that.
Piece of shit, probably.
So no bias from Staines over here, but I will say, with that being said, and I didn't know anything about this movie going in. I had seen the poster, and it looked kind of like a comedy, honestly, based on the poster. And so I went in completely blind. I think maybe y'all had mentioned that you saw it at the film festival, but going in completely blind, I will say I was completely surprised by this movie in a positive way. And I really enjoyed it, despite some things that kind of maybe I thought were going to be some hurdles for me to get over, but they were not. Well, I guess they kind of were, but I'll mention those. But despite that, I really enjoyed this movie and was surprised by kind of all aspects of it, and really enjoyed watching it. And so, yeah, I would recommend people check this out. This like shot toward the top of my list for 2023 already. So, yeah, I did really enjoy it, actually. No bias going in. So, Bob, how about you? Would you recommend people check this out?
Yeah, definitely. I too have had the pleasure of speaking with Ted a couple times, and he's really a sweetheart, just a really kind dude. So yeah, I am somewhat biased here, but yeah, I enjoyed his movies before I met him, and I enjoy this one after I met him still. I think he's a talented filmmaker. I recommend checking it out for sure. The stuff that hits Shudder can be hit or miss. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not. I think this is easily my favorite thing I've seen on Shudder so far this year. So if you do have Shudder, I highly recommend checking it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you watch it. So, yeah, sounds like a pretty solid recommendation across the board here from Straight Chilling. We are going to spoil the shit out of this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
All
right, Bob, do you have that plot synopsis?
I got it right here.
Include all the slurs, please.
I will not. I just won't.
Don't touch that dial. You need to hear this.
Hot dog Christianity. Yeah, here we go. Here is the full plot of Brooklyn 69. 5 military veterans gather in a brownstone in Brooklyn on the evening of December 26, 1945, the first Christmas after the conclusion of World War II. Marla and her husband Bob arrive, shortly followed by Archie. They are greeted by friends Paul and Hawk. Hawk's wife committed suicide recently on Thanksgiving morning because she suspected their German neighbors were Nazi spies, but nobody took her claims seriously. Hawk, now struggling with the loss of his wife, asks his friends to perform a séance so he can speak with her once again. His friends very reluctantly agree. Hawk lays her necklace out on the table, and they join hands. It's discussed that they must conclude the séance before they break the circle, or else the door to the other world is going to remain open. They start hearing some banging from the closet in the corner, and the necklace sort of stretches out in a way that seems impossible towards Hawk. He then throws up some ectoplasm, and a hand reaches out of it. They then hear a voice that definitely belongs to his wife. Hawk breaks the circle, reaching for the hand, and it vanishes. He then says he needs Paul to do something very important for him and his deceased wife, Susie, just before he shoots himself. Susie, just before he shoots himself in the head.
She was a Lorax, of course.
They end up grabbing a key. They run to the door to unlock it, and just as they do so, the closet flies open and a bound German woman bursts from it. Her name is Hildegard Baumann. She claims to live 3 doors down. She works at a grocery store, and she's married with 2 kids. She was poisoned by Hawk and tied up with the intention of having his buddy Paul kill her. Marla and Bob don't think she's a Nazi, but Paul and Archie are immediately suspicious of her. We find out Archie's guilty of war crimes, in which he killed 56 German children. Paul refuses to hand over the key, so Archie just starts blasting. He shoots at the doors and the windows, but nothing happens. Marla eventually interrogates Hildy, since that is her specialty, and she concludes that she is not a Nazi. Hawk, from beyond the grave, continues to order Paul to kill the Nazi. Marla suggests they try and end the seance to get the door to open. The ghost of Hawk's wife appears and claims Hildy cut her wrists. Archie pries open the door and sees piles of burnt children. Hawk sits up. The corpse of Hawk sits up and demands the Nazi die, begins bashing his face over and over again on the table. Bob takes the gun from Archie and shoots Paul's fingers off and then shoots him again in the head, killing him. Hildy says thank you, and then Bob shoots her in the head, killing her. They can now leave the room and exit the brownstone. Archie says he will take responsibility the following day for his war crimes and asks Bob if he will do the same. Bob repeats he did what he had to do, and Archie says, so did I. Bob and Marla get in their car and drive off. Roll credits.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's well truncated because there's a lot of meat on this fucking movie.
Yeah,
for being a bottle film of all things.
And I do have a lot of notes, but even in your synopsis, that was a good synopsis, Bob, because there were some parallels that I forgot. Like, oh yeah, that really hits heavy for that kind of like parallel or whatever. Yeah. There's a lot of that going on in this film where I thought to myself for a while, you know, this is a film that could have easily existed without the horror aspects, the seance and the ghosties and stuff like that. But then it absolutely could exist in this kind of mystery of like, is this person a spy or not? But the aspect of including the horror, I really appreciate because it didn't have to be there and it could have just been a period piece about, you know, military spies and stuff like that. But then also competently tying it into this idea of this parallel of, at one point they say we're fighting ghosts, and that kind of guilt and struggle with this kind of post-war world where these people who've dedicated their lives to it and done terrible things in the name of, you know, victory or for my country or for following orders, as struggling with that. I thought that was really smart, and just cool that you could also tie it in to a horror aspect in that way. And so I really appreciate it on like so many different facets. It was really well done, honestly.
I agree. I think this is the spooky flavor of this is by and large it's just a means to an end, and the means is to keep these people in this room dealing with their shit. And there's a lot of movies that have done different things to make that happen. I really like the conceit of just having them be like having the door open, so quote unquote, to the other realm and all that shit as a method of just stopping them from bailing out like that. Like it's a unique spin that I don't know that I have personally seen before. I may have, but I don't recall seeing another movie that did quite that. And what's great about it is it sold so well as a logical end to this man's grief. So like Hawk's grief is the only reason this is happening. The fact that everyone there is dubious of it and they only participate as a method of, you know, helping him deal. It's so well sold that I'm like in there. It doesn't really matter in the end if it's a real ghost or not, except that it keeps them in the room. So for that reason, I'm like totally on board with it all being there. I agree that outside of those parameters, I think that the story that's being told could exist outside of that. But this is just like such a good pressure cooker for what he's trying to get across.
Yeah. This movie, to that point, it's really about the characters first and foremost, which is what any great horror movie ends up being about more often than not. It's about the characters. And then like you just add the sort of like horror set dressing on top of it to jazz it up. But like these like 5 characters are like so layered and they feel fully realized in a way that you can relate to some of them in certain ways. And then as the story unfolds, you find out like these atrocities that they've committed, and it's sort of just like blows your mind. And then I don't know. It just sort of like they're drawn in like 3 dimensions, and it's interesting to like. in certain situations find out that this woman that they suspect of being a Nazi is like sticking up for them and like understanding why they did what they did, and like
to an almost absurd degree.
Yeah, it's just it's so interesting the way these characters interact and the way the situations play out. And I love the ghosts and the viscera and the you know, the gore and stuff too, but it really is, it's about these characters and how they interact. It's super interesting, and it's one of those movies that's like layered in a way so well that like you can watch it, I think, multiple times and keep getting stuff out of it. It just casts like such a wide net. There's a lot here, I think.
There's a lot of angles you can look at this through, for sure. Go ahead, Juice.
Yeah, there are. Well, yeah, it's so great because it works. Man, I really enjoyed this because the set piece I really loved of the setting and the time. Now, I will say, of course, you guys know me. My very first note was Christmas movie in June, no go or whatever. And I was like really not appreciating that, honestly.
Minus a star.
But I mean, I overcame that because I love the setting. It's got this retro feel, you know. I love generally films set in that time. I think it's a very interesting time. I think it's very aesthetically beautiful a lot of the time. And this matches that. But also, you know, it gave me a little bit of retro vibes from this kind of like mystery aspect. So, of course, I was thinking of Clue. Also, the house kind of like built into that and stuff like that. But also the way that the ghosts kind of look or operate, where they're just, you know, you're not trying to do anything like new or fancy. It's got this retro feel of the kind of just milky plasm or what, you know, just
Haunted Mansion is what it reminded me of.
Yeah. And
it's like a William Castle, William Castle level thinking in terms of how the ghosts operate and even some of the trickery that's happening, but it's being done with modern technology, so it gets across a little easier. And also has an element, just enough element of hokiness to where at first you're kind of like, I don't know about these effects, but I think that you're right. I think it's kind of an intentional pull from that era of film and horror.
Yeah.
That's how it felt to me. Yeah. So I'm having all these nice retro vibes, and that's what kind of helped me get over that Christmas hurl too, because they weren't relying on the aesthetic or the setting of Christmas. You know, you have all these other things that are also aesthetically warm and cozy and beautiful outside the realm of it also being Christmas. So that was interesting and nice, but also like to kind of disagree. I mean, not to disagree, because I think I get where Bob's going, but it's not like, to me, it wasn't necessarily about the characters. It's that the characters need to be fleshed out in order to, like, there's this message that's clearly pulsating throughout this whole thing of like society, and how even today, the things that they're saying and the things that they're experiencing feel very relevant, and allows a person like sitting in this time and this era to kind of understand the mindset of what they were going on and put it still in kind of contemporary term, like to say that this is like still going on, people still feel this way, we're still human beings, but to also put it in a context that was real at the time as well. It hit me hard. I really loved the themes and messages they were playing with as a struggle for these characters to ultimately show this kind of like struggle within the world, this morality that we kind of like live in. I thought that was handled very maturely. Like, I don't know. I thought that was very capably done.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think in a very unfortunate way, this movie is like more timely than it was when Ted was writing or filming it. Like, it just becomes more and more relevant, which kind of blows. But I know there's a little bit of trivia on this. His dad was in the service, and he helped him like write this movie, and that he like pulled from a lot of his experiences when he was in the army. I believe he was in the Air Force.
In the Vietnam War,
Air Force,
I believe.
Yeah, Vietnam. Yeah, war veteran. And he retired and then went on to like be an English professor, I believe. So like he was a smart fellow, and like he co-wrote this movie with his dad, basically. So I'm sure that helps like these characters feel a little more real than they would have if another filmmaker wrote this that didn't have any family or any experience with the military. It might have rang a little more hollow, I guess.
Oh yeah, you got to have some sort of like knowledge at play here, because I mean, not just for accuracy's sake, but for like interpersonal, like the way that people interact with each other and stuff, like the way a colonel would interact with his soldier, even if after the war, things like that. I feel like
even after like Hawk dies and he is like possessed or resurrected or whatever, he's still barking orders, and Paul is like, I'm trying, sir. Like he's still like a soldier in this crate. Like that is a corpse. Like his brains are on the wall. Like, you're still taking orders from him, man. Like
that was a cool aspect, like to tie in the horror aspect of it as well to the theme. That was cool. Or even to kind of go a little bit further, they hit me a little more because I've never been a soldier, I've never served or anything. But when the guy was saying like, "That's my best friend," you're talking about again being dead and being spoken through some entity that they're just accepting as their friend, but him being like, "That's my best friend," I was like,
so
damn, yeah.
I did not really put a lot of consideration into the idea that wasn't Hawk. I mean, I guess you could say that. That's what's so interesting. Like, man, this movie, you could really peel it back 100 different ways, and that's what's so interesting about it. Like, you can, to me, it was always Hawk. Like, to me, like him, it was his dying wish. Like, it was his hatred for what happened to his wife, whether or not he decided to buy into his wife and not what killed her. You know what I mean? Like he cannot accept that. So like to me, the idea that he would be back from the grave and so would his wife in another form in order to continue their unfinished business, and their unfinished business is hatred for this person who is I don't think there's any reason to think she's anything but blameless in this movie, Hildy.
I agree.
I don't think we're given any reason to think otherwise, and I think that's kind of key. But that's one of the few things I feel really firm about, like that is supposed to be the case.
You feel firm that she is 100% innocent?
Yeah.
She's not a Nazi. She's not a spy.
Okay. Now, see, that was the only. So I mean, you don't know, but you saying like 100%. I like the fact that like maybe you couldn't, because there was this really interesting dynamic that I like honestly was really focusing on. Because when she does the whole sympathetic thing, we've even talked about this before in separate movies, not even talking about being Nazis or anything like that, like P-Deuce, where we were saying like, how would you get out of a situation or something like that? The psychology behind it. But I will like, honestly, the way she's talking, I have two split minds, because I was saying like, okay, you're thinking that's just somebody trying to say something to get out of the situation as best. I don't really think like she would be completely understanding or not. But then part of me is thinking like that kind of does make her sound more guilty, because it's so understanding of like I followed orders and I've done things that I wouldn't want to do, to the idea of, maybe she really kind of has fallen in love with her neighborhood and her neighbors, and she is kind of stuck in this place where she came as a Nazi spy, but she could never reveal that to anyone, because then obviously, so like I like the fact that it could be ambiguous, and I would never say 100% she's supposed to be innocent.
When I say 100%, I mean my confidence in it. Not that the movie is but I think my confidence in it is a reflection. Confidence in that is a reflection of how the film is made. I think you could make the arguments you're making. There's no 100% certainty, because we don't see what happens to her before this, or after. So, but like they don't say, but I think I'm pretty confident that textually speaking, we can assume that she's innocent. Was mostly innocent. But that said, what you're talking about is also part of what is being discussed. It's part of what's being brought to the table as something interesting to talk about, because she's interrogated by a professional interrogator. And we all know, as modern people who have the benefit of goddamn a million true crime fucking documentaries, that confessions under torturous duress are not reliable. And
they'll tell you anything.
They'll say, and so like we don't know, it's not proof of anything. So like proof, textual proof, not there, but high level of confidence is all I'm saying. I just think it's really interesting that like you and I both, I had that same thought, was like, she's like, oh man, that's really understanding to this guy who's like their friend kidnapped her. She's called him a bastard a minute ago, and now she's saying like, I don't think you're a bad guy for killing 50 kids. I don't know that I would go that far personally.
I mean, if you're trying to save your skin, man, I would say fucking anything. I'd be like, yeah, that's totally
exactly. So like,
yeah.
But at the same time, like you're saying that because it is the right thing to say, and you might be saying that because it is the truth. Like that. The truth and a lie are indistinguishable. There's no real way you can know anything about another person. And that's part of the fog of war, is not really being able to totally trust what you're hearing. And like, even Paul had that moment where he's like, I killed a guy who spoke English. He begged me. He said he loved America and all this shit. And like, and he's like, yeah, but he would have killed me the moment he got the chance. Like, you don't fucking know that.
Have no idea.
You have no fucking idea. And she points that out. So like the amount of certainty, and she's like cops, she's like, you can't be certain of anything. You can only listen to what I'm saying and trust Anne Ramsey's character, who is a professional supposedly at getting these sorts of confessions out of people. So that's the most confidence you're going to get. Period. It's having that happen, and it's still not perfect.
Going off of that, there are these like little things that like really like elevated this movie for me, and so that aspect was one of them. And the way he plays with these characters and their mindsets, I thought was like fantastic, because so when we're talking about the idea of, if you torture anybody, they'll tell you anything to get it out, or to stop the torture or whatever. So what I found interesting, which is a different take than like where any other movie kind of goes with this, is I was actually more focused on the mentality of the interrogator, because they had revealed enough about the situation and these people and the relationships for me to be thinking, okay, this woman has been through it and she has accepted that it's over. She's one of the ones who keeps saying the war is over. It's done. I don't want to do my job anymore. She doesn't want to be associated with that anymore. And she already makes the judgment call. This woman's innocent. None of the red flags are coming up. And so, and even when she does the little, she whispers to her like, hey, this is going to suck. I'm sorry. We got to go through it. But I was even thinking of the idea of, she's not really doing her interrogation. She's putting on a show to just subdue. Just to get that guy to accept that she's not. And so I didn't even take it as a real interrogation. And so that even added to the intense like ambiguity of, this woman just wants to get out of here. She just wants to put on the show. She's not actually going to do an investigation. So this woman could really be a spy because she's not actually putting in that effort.
I read it the exact opposite way. She said that to Hildy to disarm her and make her feel extra comfortable so that she could come in and actually interrogate her and take her off guard, maybe.
The thing is, like, you can definitely read it both ways. You're not wrong. I think that's like a way that you could look at what happened. But ultimately, it's like, it just lends all the same credence to what we were just talking about, which is, how can you be sure of anything? Nobody's sure of anything. Unless you see it with your own goddamn eyes, what do you fucking know? And so, like, you can think the person down the street is a Nazi spy all you want, but like and then to kill yourself over it and start this cascade of dominoes that leads to more murders, like that's pretty intense to have, like, and in the end having Bob, the like pencil pusher, the desk man,
the only like
to have him pull the trigger,
innocent in the movie,
the one who just moments prior had said, what did he say? He said, like, if the seance closing the door doesn't work, we'll just try again. We'll just keep trying, because that is the diplomat's job. And that's the thing, is like, we talk about how this is a movie about characters, and it is, but it's also a movie about allegory and not even archetypes, but like specific roles in war. So you've got the trigger man, you've got the general who's afraid to get his hands dirty. You've got the xenophobe who just wants, basically pretty clear, he just hates other countries, people from other countries, and not totally unjustifiably, because he's seen his friends killed that way. He's been shot at by these people. So, whatever. Not to get too deep into that. You've got the interrogator who is just on the intelligence arm. And then you've got the pure intelligence man who signs off on things. And is he any less culpable of killing? He's just not he's not that different from Larry Fassenden's character in that sense. He's not the one who pulls the trigger on anybody, but in some way he contributed to the war effort and contributed to men dying. So, I mean, at the end of the day, he was willing to pull the trigger in order to get himself out of a pickle that there was no discernible other way out of, even after all that bluster about trying and trying again. So, like, is he a company man, so to speak, for the governments at play? Is that what his role is partially?
This movie sort of like harkens back to the overall theme of Starship Troopers, whereas, like, you know, war makes monsters of anybody, no matter who you are. Like, you go in as a decent human being, and then when you find yourself in the shit, like, at the end of the day, you're murdering someone else. Yeah. Like, you do
a million split-second decisions later.
Yeah, you do things you wouldn't do normally because you're in an extreme circumstance, an extreme set of situation or whatever. It's just like, you can understand it to a degree, sure. It's really easy to criticize when you're not in the shit yourself. Right. But, you know, as soon as Bob finds himself there, he just starts capping people in the head. Like,
not so that's an interesting aspect about it. Not when Bob's in this situation, because as we said, when Bob's in the situation, he is still playing his role as the diplomat. He's using the tools that his society has taught him to get out of this. It's when he has the power. There's one gun in the situation. So when he's in the situation, he's playing the diplomat. When he's not in power, you know, he's trying to diffuse, hey, we're going to get out of this, let's calm down. When he's given the sole power to make the decisions, to, you know, that's when he does the horrific, you know. And I think that is such a powerful message too, because at one point, except maybe the interrogator, everybody kind of has the gun, you know, and that's kind of like an aspect of having the power and like what you do with it and stuff like that. And so that was really good for that Bob character, because it really pushed that, like, you know, like you said, you don't know how you feel it until you're in the situation, but it's really when you actually can affect the situation that's the scary aspect of it.
Like when you are in the position to get your hands dirty or die trying, you know what I mean? Or, you know, like that's, I don't know, man. It all lends credence to the central idea, which is what I take from it, which is that, you know, what you guys are saying, like there's, you know, when the chips are down, like it's going to affect you. Your fight or flight instinct is going to take over to a certain extent, and you're going to make calculations for your life versus others. And some people are way too willing to make that calculation in their own favor. And it's easy for somebody like Bob to sit back and not necessarily easy, but like it's easier for somebody like Bob to sit back and have principles. You know, it's easy not to have dinner when you've already had a snack, as Hank Hill has said. In an unrelated episode of King of the Hill that I just watched today. You know, it's easy to have principles or something that people with full bellies get to have. You know what I mean? So when you're out in the field and you're put there by somebody like Bob, what is his culpability in the end? I think that everybody has to be culpable, and that's what that last few interaction between Archie and him is about. It's about him being like, you got to own this. I know you had to do what you had to do. I had to do what I had to do. If there's forgiveness for one of us, it has to be for both of us. I think that's what is being explained. But like, and I find that to be a hard pill to swallow, because 52 kids.
It's tough. Yeah. I think the end scene is super interesting. Like, before they exit the brownstone, we don't even know if it's necessary for Bob to kill Hildy to open the door, because he kills Paul, who was actually charging him. He's threatening his life. He says he's going to kill him, so he shoots Paul in the head. You can actually understand that choice. And then Hildy is like, "Oh my God, thank you for saving my life." Yeah. And then he just caps her.
That is a calculation.
Maybe they could have opened the door at that point. Maybe they could have done the seance again. Like, he didn't give any time to try.
They had free reign to do, and exactly. Yeah. Like, the time for trying things was over for Bob. Yeah. The minute that he pulled that trigger, it's like, this has to be over now. And like, that's, people in charge of wars make decisions on the basis of immediation, just as much as they make it on intelligence or anything else.
He was obviously like frightened for his life. You know, the fight or flight situation was going on, like, you know, adrenaline's pumping through the roof, whatever. He just didn't think and acted. Maybe he regretted it. I'm sure he did, but they still got out of the brownstone. It's the movie just sort of like highlights all of these people who, like, outside of these extreme situations are probably totally normal, kind, generous folks, and then when they get in situations, they make horrific decisions, and like you're left to ponder, like, should there be forgiveness for that? Should that define them as people, or should it just be considered amongst all the other choices that they've made? And it's interesting.
Well, yeah, it is. And it's, man, I really like, so I also really like that he chose this time, one, because it's just more kind of interesting and aesthetically pleasing to me. But I think for it to ring so true even now, it's interesting to see a movie like this for a room full of white people to sit here, and across from them is this other white person who just happens to have an accent. Because, you know, it's so like it's really just about finding some other, you know, and it's just we get so caught up in other things about, like, you know, things that you can see or things that are so noticeable, differences in culture or language or something like that. But it's just like this woman who's lived in America for 11 years. And that's what's like kind of so interesting about the kind of World War II is just like I've grown up my whole life, you know, thinking this was less than 100 years ago. And I've grown up thinking positively towards, you know, Germany or Japan or whatever, but to put yourself in that place and be like, you literally can find an other anywhere, and these things still brew or whatever. And these things are still true. Exactly. Yeah. That's it could be anyone. You think like, oh no, it's somebody who's got a different language or somebody who's got different color skin or somebody. It's like you literally can find it anywhere if that's what the situation pushes the society to. And it's like, man, I think that was like a good choice to set it at this time to make that more, it's hit I agree. Harder.
Like, and on one hand, it's like it kind of ignores racial components, which I think, like you said, like there's something to be said about how easy it is to other somebody when you can on site clock them as somebody who has a difference between you and them. But I think that you're right. Like, and they take pains to point out like that it's not just her accent; it's the way people look, whatever your eyes look like, whatever your color, your skin looks like, whatever, or just a different accent. Like they make that, they tie those together, so they do the work there. But part of me is like, yeah, man, I at one point this time around, I was like, I wonder what this movie would be like if it was a Japanese person down the street. You know what I mean? Like, how would it differ, and how much more prone would these people who have can visually identify differences between them and this other person, is how much more willing they would be to suspect the worst. Do you know what I mean? Like, so. And
I think that is true, because this is like a beautiful white woman who says, I have kids. I have 2 young kids.
We're neighbors.
If this was like a Japanese
short, squat little Japanese guy.
Then I feel like the movie would be more quickly to just be over. I'm not the movie, but like the situation. Yeah.
It's crazy that they have like just zero evidence. She just has an accent. Period.
Yeah,
that's it. And they're believing.
And Susie's say so.
Who allegedly committed suicide, and then her husband then committed suicide. All of their and then their ghosts.
Everybody seemed to be aware that she was not doing well too. Which like
they're just
the levels that you have to dig through in order to get to that conclusion.
Half of the characters immediately buy into her being a Nazi just because she has an accent, and that's all it takes. It's as simple as that. Crazy.
Well, and so this movie is really great too, because it has the actual horror elements. There's a ghost, and this guy coming back to life, and some gore going on and stuff like that. But it has this real life horror that honestly reminded me of a movie like Eden Lake, where the true horror that is like true horror, like this could really happen or whatever, where I could put myself in this film, because I've done it before, where feel like you're talking 100% like clear sense to somebody, but it's so clear that their mindset is just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Like moving the goalposts. We kind of talked about that in Starship Troopers too, where at first they're like, no, the bugs they're dumb, so it's okay to kill them. And they're like, they're smart. It's like, well, good, let's kill them anyway. So it's kind of
watch that in real time on Twitter.
Yeah, it's that mindset of, fuck, I am doing my best to defend somebody's life, to save a mother, to save a family from not having a mother, from saving my friend from just murdering somebody in cold blood, and having that realization of like, I don't know if there's anything I can do except just beg off of just this sense of morality. Please don't do this, because all logic has failed. And that's horrific to me. Like that gives me real tension, because it's like the reason I mentioned Eden Lake is because it goes back to that thing of where, so I guess kind of spoilers for that, but I get the idea about that was we take care of our own, we look after our own, and like you getting in a situation where people's moralities, they don't care about you as a person.
Yeah, it's moral to protect yourself and your clique at all, your tribe at all. That's the thing, is like I totally agree. It's this thing where you have it's beliefs. Paul said so. It's like, you said it's belief is about things you can't see. I believe that she's a Nazi, and you can't talk somebody out of a belief. We see this every fucking day in the way that religion is impacting American policy, let's say. Yeah. I mean, like, there's a million, like, what people believe, what they're inclined to think. You cannot convince them otherwise with I don't know. There's no surefire way to convince them otherwise. There are people that have turned about face. A lot of them. Like, there's been a lot of fucking people who excelled at getting people to reconsider those sorts of things and, deprogram that out of themselves. But it is a program that they are running, and you have to find that killer like glitch in order to get in there and break that open. And the thing is, like, some people, they're so hardwired to that program. You're not going to be able to find that. There's no psychological thing you're going to be able to do to get them there, because they are a warrior for the belief that they have, not for the reality, not for the logic, not for it's built into a DNA level personality trait at that point. And that's what's really happening with Paul this whole movie.
Yeah. That the idea of faith being played around with in this movie is super interesting. Like, Hawk even mentions it, like when he's sort of going through his steps after his wife killed herself. Like, he starts going to church and he talks to the priest who says, Susie's soul's gonna be condemned to hell because she took her own life, and that's a sin or whatever. So he sort of forsakes the church and starts reading all these books about, I don't know, the afterlife, and he gets into like the seance stuff and wants to try it. So he's like completely lost his faith. He says as much, and then they do the seance, he kills himself, and then it seems as though his buddy Paul, all he has is his faith. And like, people in the room give him everything that he wants. They interrogate the woman, they do everything that he wants. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He still believes
he blackmails them to stay there.
Like period. Like, he even says, like, if we get out of this room, I'm going to follow her home and beat her to death in front of her children.
In front of her family.
He's like, I will kill everyone in this room in order to protect my country, because his country is God.
Yeah.
His other, if he was a Christian before, if he was a believer of anything before, the seance broke that. He actually changed his mind about that, because he saw it. He did not go into denial after he saw the goddamn ectoplasm. Yeah. So, like, after that, he was able to change that. And I guess, like, that was not his bedrock principle. His bedrock principle was belief in America, not belief in God.
Oh, yeah.
That was interesting to me.
Well, I think why it kind of resonated with me earlier too is there's an even deeper level. Like, man, he's like, Ted is able to like craft so many rich aspects out of this, because I think there's an even deeper level, which I mentioned before, where he said, like, that's my friend right there. We also have to deal with the fact that this man is dealing with the grief of his best friend murdering himself in front of him just moments before. So everything that we're putting on this guy who's been through a war, who has these, these kind of like distorted beliefs in America and like the other and things like that, he's also going through this process of a real grief that like, anybody who, like, if I saw one of my best friends shoot themselves in the, I wouldn't be thinking mentally. I wouldn't be judging the moralities of society and and like, especially if there's like fucking ghosts flying around. But apart from, there's deeper and deeper levels for each one of these characters, and it's very rich, and I think they're all handled like very well, honestly.
Yeah. And while we're on that, Bob, you go ahead.
I was gonna say Paul's also just like chugging whiskey the whole movie. He's not doing okay.
A lot of them are honestly, it's him. Well, I guess it's him and Hawk mostly.
Yeah.
By the end of things, but. I mean, I don't know. While we're on the subject of that, like the performances in this movie are all fucking great. Am I wrong? Like, have a great script to work off of. In my opinion, like that's like helping elevate. But they're helping elevate. They are tandem rocket ships building this movie up beyond the scope that a single room should contain. In my opinion, it's like I wouldn't say like. And thinking about a bottle movie, obviously the go-to movie that I think of, and most people I think would think of in America anyway, is 12 Angry Men. And I think this has some comparable performances. I don't think that maybe it's kind of tough to touch some of those performances, and that movie is like kind of untouchable. It's kind of god tier, but I think this movie like holds its own as a bottle, and I think it really does a great job. In large part because those performances are so fucking believable. Hawk in particular, Larry Fessenden. I think Ted was saying that Larry's like kind of like was shocked and didn't want to do the part because he didn't see himself as an actor. I disagree. He didn't see himself as that kind of actor. I think is what he said. He's a bit player or something like that.
That's
he's not in the whole movie, but he did such a good fucking job.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I thought the same. So what's the trigger man? What's the actor's name?
Let me look it up.
Because I kind of thought the same thing about that guy, where I saw him at the beginning. I was like, oh, I know that guy. And I kind of thought of him in the same way. I was like, oh, that's the kind of guy. He's in a lot of films. He's kind of always in the background. He's never, like really taken center stage or anything. And I was like, oh, is he going to be able to kind of like have a role like this? And he killed it, man. He
great.
Killed it. Yeah.
Dude, at the beginning, like he has such a striking resemblance to Timothy Dalton that I immediately, my brain wanted to connect him to Skinner in fucking, oh my God, that Shaun of the Dead sequel. What is it? Fucking
Hot Fuzz? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He looks so much like Timothy Dalton in that movie. And I was like, so I was immediately distrustful of him. And then I found out he's a war criminal, and that didn't help anything. Yeah. And then but like the way he performs it, not one of these characters, not one, not even Paul, who is like just acts like such a loathsome worm through so much of this movie. Like not one of them is without their humanity. And that's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It's impressive as hell. Yeah. I feel like
before we give our rating, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like most filmmakers, when they would approach a movie like this, would find Paul being like the villain and make him completely unredeemable, and like have everybody else be like mostly relatable. But like there's layers to everybody in this movie, and I love that about it, and I love that it doesn't like end in a way that like tells you how to feel about the situation. It's just like these are real people. They dealt with horrific shit in their own ways, and like that's just life. Like it is what it is. Make of it what you will. I like that. Yeah, go ahead, Juice.
So before we give our rating, like I wanted to give this movie proper praise because I think it really deserves it. And I wanted to talk about how impressed I was and kind of go through some of these things. But I do want to go through one of these things that's kind of bothering me a little bit because I want to see if maybe y'all can talk me out of it a little bit. Or like give it. So as I mentioned before, a lot of movies I feel like you try to run away from the horror genre if like given some certain kind of opportunity. And like I said, I feel like this one could have easily existed without the horror element. So I do appreciate that. And I like how they were handled in their aesthetics and their kind of retro vibes and everything like that. Here's what I'm kind of struggling with a little bit is some of the logical choices and how they play into this kind of situation. So for instance, well, I think there's kind of like 2 or 3 things that are kind of bothering me about how this plays out. It's the key like disappearing through the door. Okay. And also the kind of ghost coming out and saying that this woman killed her. Okay, this ghost like doing the knife thing. I didn't commit suicide. You killed me. Okay. So that's the kind of aspect I am kind of struggling with a little bit, because I guess I'm trying to find out like what's the motivation of these ghosts, or like not necessarily motivation, but like why would a ghost do that? Why would a ghost say this woman killed me if the woman didn't kill her?
Unfinished
Revenge.
business. Yeah, they want to see that person die, even if it's not true. That even if they did commit suicide, it's just
they're trying
unfinished business.
I think the ghosts are trying to win an argument, just like anybody else in the room. I think they want to win the argument that they were right all along. That's like they didn't die for nothing. They died, if it's not true that she actually stabbed her in the arm and cut her wrist for her, then that she's still in the ghost mind, at least the way I interpret it, as you killed me regardless, because you drove me to that.
So I think that's part of the trouble I'm having, because typically in ghost lore, like we see in a lot of movies like this, is once you're kind of dead, the realities of the universe or
the ghost
whatever.
Isn't lying. Yeah.
So it feels a little kind of it feels a little kind of weird that a ghost would have, like, a ghost would kill itself, and then I recognize the idea of unfinished business of I want this person to die, but it feels weird for a ghost to kind of be manipulative for something that wouldn't be true.
Yeah, why kill yourself if you're going to come back and try and do the same thing that you were unsuccessful doing? Like,
because you were called back by a seance. I mean,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, it's like I don't think that there's. I see kind of what you're saying, but like, and maybe there's a key difference here in that I don't know. But like, I think about Turn of the Screw, Bly Manor, On the Hill House, all that shit. Like those ghosts don't have untapped knowledge of the world at large. They are stuck at a moment of their lives where they believe certain things. And if this ghost has been in the room while this arguing is going on and is brought to bear, and like, I don't know, like the fact that she would outwardly lie, I just don't think we see a lot of movies where that is necessary for the plot, or that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't have a problem with that being something that ghosts can do in this movie, because it works for this movie. I think that, I don't know. Yeah. I don't think that any other movie's ghost rules need apply, because this is its own movie.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what's tripping me. It's weird to think, and it's weird too, because I want to live in this ambiguous space where I'm like, maybe this woman could do it, and so it's really weird for me to be like, what is this ghost getting out of it to lie? So either there's two truths, or there's two possibilities. A ghost is lying and is manipulating to get this woman killed because that's what they want, and that kind of feels weird to me. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me. Or the ghost is telling the truth, in which case the woman is a spy and she did kill him. And in which case, that's kind of interesting. But the negative, if that were the truth, the negative aspect of that is it takes the ambiguity away. I want to kind of wonder if that's the truth. And so I guess that moment and that aspect kind of bothers me, because also too, with the key getting sucked away, it's like, really, like, what are you going to do to get out of here? The ghost just wants this person dead. Well, how are you going to get out?
Okay, well, I'll get to the key in a second, but I want to point out, like, think about Susie the ghost as allegorical, and think about her from that perspective, because what she is ultimately, if we're fighting ghosts, if ghosts, like, they're fighting for a ghost. Hawk was fighting for a ghost. Now Paul is fighting for both of those ghosts. Yeah. So like, it doesn't matter. Like allegorically speaking, it does not matter what Susie actually thinks in the afterlife. What matters is how we see her in the aftermath of her death. How Paul sees her specifically, and how the rest of them see her. So allegorically, I don't think it really matters. So, and like, considering that that's where I'm most drawn to in this film, I'm not worried about the nuts and bolts of how ghostly apparitions work otherwise. I think that's a set dressing for the meat of the situation. I think that's fucking that. I don't know. It's just there for decoration almost, but it's not completely impossible to, like, it's not entirely that. That's a bad explanation.
Yeah,
like,
because it moves the plot
also
along.
moves the plot and it pressure cooks, like I said before. So
yeah.
I think it all works the way it was intended, and I don't get hung up on that because ultimately it seems like the end goal is achieved, and the ambiguity I think is still there because you and I are arguing about whether or not the ghost is capable of lying. We don't know that either, so that just adds to the ambiguity. As far as the key goes, I don't know like how that works. Like the idea that they're trapped in there, that is where I kind of get hung up a little bit too. And it's because like I think it needed to push to the point where Bob gets his hands dirty. But I don't think that like I don't know that like really like is that saying that like you have to kill this woman in order to get out of here, whether she's guilty or not. In order to get out of the situation, you have to kill a potential innocent. What is that advocating for? And I don't think it's meant to advocate anything. I think it's meant to talk about Bob's character, but it has the added the background sensation of being like, so ultimately killing an innocent person, potentially at least, was necessary in order for lives to continue. I don't want to live in a world where that's the truth. Yeah. And maybe that's naivety on my part. Maybe that's another level you could debate with yourself and others, but that is the thing that like I don't want to take from this movie, that in order to survive, you have to kill. I don't want that to be true, I guess. So that's where I get hung up.
Well, I guess because it kind of worked a little bit better for me when there was that added aspect of, because you have the gun and then you have the key. Okay, somebody's got the key, somebody's got the gun. And when the key's gone through, supernatural methods, it kind of takes that aspect out of it a little bit. And I liked that aspect. And it kind of drives it to that thing where there's no choice. Even if you get the gun, what are you going to do with it? I kind of like it more of, it's the key. And somebody could get the key, somebody could get the gun, somebody could have the gun and pressure them to give the key. There's fight over. I don't know. Just taking the key away supernaturally, it like kind of bothered me a little bit.
I liked it. First of all, I like the effect of it. Second of all, I like the key is like it's look at it as in this room is its own military conflict, and it again the allegory holds up where it's like you have these two options. You can either take the key and get out of there and ignore Hawk's request to kill this person, or kill this person and then leave and honor your thing. But then it takes the honor question away. It's not about like who you're honoring. It's not about any of that shit. It's really about survival all of a sudden, and that speaks to war also. Like it takes away, like it's not like, oh well, if we threaten them a certain way then we can get what we want, or oh, if we are diplomatic in a certain way we might get what we want, and we got to choose which way to go. Now all of a sudden it's like existential on its face. So I kind of like dig it on that level.
At a certain point, like it's very clear that neither the gun nor the key are going to open the door, so like you're really just left with figuring out something or like killing Hildy. And it's like I do really like how the end happens so quickly, where Bob just makes the gut decision to kill Hildy. We don't know if she's a Nazi or not. I guess ultimately it doesn't matter, and I assume that's really how like most decisions are made in war. It's just like things happen so quickly because people are in like fight or flight, and you have to like
also
evaluate.
Calculations are made.
Sure, I completely agree. Yeah, you're right. But like most of it, I assume when you're on the battlefield is going to have to be like evaluated later, reflected upon later. And I can't imagine what that fucking feels like. I'm sure it's awful. I don't know. It's just interesting.
I like how everybody too kind of represents some different decision making that would present itself in war, where like one guy's making decisions purely out of, like we said, faith and belief and anger, almost of like, I just hate this person, I just want to kill her, that's no matter what you say, I just want to kill this person, and I'm always going to want to kill this person. One person's like thinking more logically, where the interrogator, where they're like, I'm gonna get like information and things. Bob's reacting out of fear. He's where he doesn't hate this woman, and he's not being ordered to do it. Where the trigger man, he's like, following orders, and I'm just kind of like going up the ranks, and that way I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But Bob's doing it out of like self-preservation, like just fear. He's just a scared person who wants to get out of the room, and so somebody else becomes a liability. It's fascinating that everybody like goes through these different processes of like making decisions, and they all like,
have
relevant to that person. Yeah.
Like that's just good character writing, and what's amazing about it is the character writing speaks to the broader conversation about war. So to have these stand-in characters that don't feel completely stand-in, but also service a function of representing a class of people in that world. And you get to see a person's arc begin, middle, and end. Like it really is like it's just good storytelling. It's just really solid storytelling. There's no real like replacement for that, honestly.
I agree. Wholeheartedly agree. I know we could talk more. It's about time to land that plane.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and rate this thing. Out of 5, Juice, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about Brooklyn 45?
Sure. I mean, let me just go through some of my notes. I love the music choices, kind of remind me of BioShock Infinite. Like I said, that kind of period and stuff just kind of works really well. Good sense of tension at the beginning. Like I'm just going through these notes as like I'm watching the movie. Love the aesthetic. Great at controlling the room emotions. Interesting looking at this man going through grief and struggling. His what's that guy's Hawk, whatever. Him going through his whole thing about after his wife died in the process and going to church, and like that was just a great little segment too. Just this man, you're just like, you have that real feeling of somebody who you think but they're like coming unraveled due to like emotions and grief and stress, and you're like, oh God. That played out really well. Oh, this line cracked me up. Have you snapped your cap? I think Bob said that.
Yeah, I love like the nomenclature is like spot on in this movie to me. At least as far as I know. It sounds right.
His wife chose hate and it consumed her. The one man can't let the war go. It's become his identity and he wants to keep living in that no matter what. Very interesting. I love another line that was just like really well delivered, and also an aspect that like wasn't like hammered in but just worked really well is that when he says, and not where I'm dipping my dick or whatever.
Yeah, man, it's that alliteration is hilarious, but also like the stuff, the low-key stuff about like the homophobia and shit like that. Fucking great. Like it's so underplayed, and like I don't know.
It's interesting that they're both like good friends, and when it first comes up, you're like, oh my God, they're going there, and then they're like, oh, they're buddies. And cutting it up.
Yeah, they're just ribbing each other.
But then later in the movie, he brings it up again, and you're like, no, he's not okay with this guy being gay, clearly.
Yeah. Well, like, he's using that as it's another way to separate another.
Totally.
Like, if I need to isolate you and justify in my mind, that's how I'm going to do it.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much he did for the cause, the only cause he still believes in, which is America. It doesn't matter how many people that he killed in the service of his commanding officer. He's willing to sell him down the river because he won't kill this woman, and he's also willing to denigrate him for his sexual preferences or his sexual like desires. And it's like, it's clear that like logic needs not apply for Paul. He's a believer.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and I love that aspect of like, if you're with me, then it's all good and I support you. The second you turn against me, I find something to rip you down and like
rip you down, and I will ruin your life even.
Exactly.
Denying me this.
That I thought that aspect was really like subtle and like, but played well. And also that line was really funny. We're fighting Ghost, amazing parallel. Just following orders, they delivered on that. Is You Is or Is You Ain't My Baby. Love that song. I think I first heard that in Tom and Jerry. That's some
Tom and Jerry, man.
That's that funny ass segment where he like rolls the cigarette or whatever. And
he rolls a cigarette with his mouth or something.
Yeah, well, he makes the
squirts it out of his
lick it or whatever. Do that shit. That's awesome. Yeah. When playing good men are pushed to their limit, awesome. I had to do it. So did I. Amazing line. Also, the ending credits were dope. And like, this movie, it's really well done. And the thing is I want to watch this again. I love that we kind of got this new sneaky kind of Christmas horror again. The thing is like, as I really like this, but the kind of aspect I was bringing up a little bit is gnawing at me some. And that could go away with future viewings. But in like some aspects, like it doesn't feel like a Jaws or like a Jurassic Park where I would give it like a 5-star straight up. But I mean, when I go through all the aspects, it's really well crafted, and just these little points like where the plot needs to kind of be pushed or circumstances need to go a certain way, where I feel like maybe the ghosty aspects are used as kind of like a way to just like, well, that's the way it's got to be, instead of kind of like crafting it that way. I think maybe drops it just a scotch for me. So I think I'm going to give it a 4.5. Like, I was so surprised by this movie. Nice. And I think it's like really well done. It's shot like straight to the top of my list for sure for the year. Yeah. It's really good. Really, really good. I want to watch it again. I'll watch it at Christmas. Bob, out of 5, where are you going to rate Brooklyn 45?
Yeah, this is also high on my list. I've seen it twice now, and I wouldn't be upset about watching it again, even before the year's out. It's just got characters that are like written well enough that I don't find them boring at all. Like I as the plot unfolds, I just like, I don't know. I feel like there's so much that you can pull out of each one of these people that it really does warrant like rewatches. The Clue vibes, man, like. Mm-hmm. Just fucking really I love that movie so much that anything remotely like it I'm just sort of like endeared to. The design of the room is really interesting too, and it like thank God it is, because the whole movie takes place in one single room. It just it has this like warm Christmassy vibe to it, but it doesn't have like a Christmas tree in the corner, and there's not really like a light. Yeah. There's lights outside you can kind of see through the window, but it's got like
definitely cozy.
Yeah, the roar of the fire, and they're around a table, and it's got like some reds and greens, and it just feels real, cozy. Like they're bundled up a little bit. So there's like some Christmas vibes going on that I dig quite a bit. There's so many different like themes and ideas that this movie's playing with. It feels like such a rich like gumbo of a story that like you can just pull at any single thread and go down such a rabbit hole, and it just feels like so enriching to watch and to ponder. And the performances are well done. I don't know, I struggled to have like negatives. I guess if I had some negatives, maybe some of the ghost effects are a little too cheesy. I know they're going for like a certain vibe, like an old school vibe, and I do dig that overall. Like I appreciate that. Maybe it could have been a little tighter, and I'm sure some of that was like budgetary. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. I think the movie is still like extremely good. The story is just too well crafted to like really be too bothered by that stuff, I think. I think ultimately I'm going to come in. I'll come in with a 4.25, I think, on this one. 4.25 for Brooklyn 45. Yeah.
2.25.
Good shit. Check it out if you haven't. Randeezy, how do you feel?
Yeah, I've already talked most of my positives, I think, but one that you were touching on, the thing that really like hit me hard the first time I saw this movie was the aesthetic. Like I immediately I don't see this really, like, I don't know. I'm not so I'm not a slave to the calendar like Soju is or any of that stuff. So I'm not too concerned with like how Christmassy or not Christmassy it is, but it has like a Christmas aesthetic. And I was so fascinated by the color choice. It hit me as like, this is Home Alone flavored right now, but this is a totally different movie than that. It kind of like hit in a similar way to like Midsummer, where it's like, it's horror in an aesthetic that does not seem conducive to horror. And it seems more conducive to, in this case, coziness and warmth and friendship. And, you know, like it feels like fucking it just feels like Home Alone. They've got like the green walls are like, I brought this up to Ted. I think I asked this question in his Q&A.
You did?
About the color choices. Like, and I think he's like, yeah, we chose to put Archie in like this bright red blazer or whatever. So it's Christmassy without being Christmassy, and it exudes a little bit of that warmth, and the hearth is burning the whole time for the most part, and it's like looking good. I don't know, like that shit really, like, it's impressive to me to pull good horror out of that situation, and not just like, I don't know, like I love like Silent Night, Deadly Nights, and all those like I like Christmas horrors and things like that. A lot of them are fun as shit, and the aesthetic is a large part of that. But the aesthetic goes a lot further in those than this has to. It's just a nice cherry on top. Yeah, the performances are great. The like there's a million ways you can cut this thing up and reconfigure it. It allows you to draw your own conclusions. You know, I don't have a lot of negatives for this. I think that my negative is actually pretty similar to Bob's in that, like, I also understand that I feel like it's going from the effects. Some of the effects are going for a little bit of hokum, a little bit of hocus pokey, you know, like a little bit of silliness, just on a little bit, a little World's Fair shit. But I feel like as much as I kind of like that, I also feel like it draws a little bit away from the extremely heavy topics that this movie is centered on. And so part of me wishes they were more straightforward, gory, because that would be true to the horrors of war, just like the story is true to the horrors of war. So I think it doesn't neglect that entirely. Like Larry Fessenden face getting beaten to a pulp, that was very effective and it worked. Budgetary constraints be damned. I think they did a damn good job with that. And maybe if they had a little more budget, they could have gone a little bit more authenticity. And like the charred children, like Jesus Christ. But then you have things like the eyes moving on the portrait on the wall in Scooby-Doo fashion and things like that. And it's like, that's kind of a fun, spooky, Halloween-y vibe thing or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily help sell the weight of what's being talked about. So that would be my only ding that I can think of now. And I also agree, I could watch this movie again. I could talk about it more. I'm going to give it a 4.75.
Whoa, even out Bob over here.
Wow, 4.75.
Bob, I can do the math for you.
It's going to be a 4.5 aggregate from the Straight Chilling crew.
Quick maths.
Check your math, Bob.
Let's jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Brooklyn 69.
Certified.
I guarantee you, if you look up Brooklyn 69, you're going to find an Andy Samberg themed pornography, not anything to do with this movie. This is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to have these gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is for Brooklyn 45 on RottenTomatoes.com. We're going to do both critics and users, and we're going to start, as we always do, with the critics. Now, there are 51 critical reviews for this film so far.
Oh, okay.
I imagine more might come out, maybe not. But
if we were on there'd be more.
There would be.
There'd be 52. Yeah, that's true. Good math, Justin. Yeah, 51. I'm going to start with you, Bob. Where do you think what aggregate of those 51 reviewers do you think gave positive reviews for this film?
I think it'll be pretty high. How high? I'll take an 80. 80%, please.
80. All right. Juice, how about you?
I think it's going to be high too, but there's going to be some people. I'm trying to think of what people are going to ding it on, and maybe just like the effects or that like retro style. Maybe not as many people are going to be as endeared to it. Maybe, but I still think it's going to be high. So I'm actually going to go higher than Bob. This might be a mistake, but I'm going to say 83.
83, odd number. Well, that will serve you well. 86 certified fresh.
The boys.
The project.
The boys?
Did I got with the boys?
oh yes.
Project 86.
The boy. That's that man. We have never even properly explained that joke on the show.
You have actually several times.
Have I? Okay.
Every
good.
now and then you get into this.
Like somebody.
The band Project 86.
That is
From
so
high
very
school.
specific
From high
to
school.
us.
Also, I think they still make music. I don't know if it's any good.
They do.
don't-
Somebody posted on the Slack music channel recently.
Yeah.
They had a concept album or something come out.
Oh
yeah.
God.
Okay.
It was like
so if you ever
sci-fi.
hear us use the phrase
Oh,
the
God.
boys, that apparently just means 86%.
Or 69 boys. It's
It could-
one of the
well,
69
Bob.
dudes. Those are dudes.
Yeah, I go
Bob.
dudes.
Oh, dudes. Sorry.
Come on.
86 boys, 69 dudes.
Come on, dude.
Okay.
You gotta get together.
After this deep discussion, we just lost all credibility.
Yeah.
Oh, I planned. I never leave credibility unspent. I always just hand to mouth with that shit.
Ted, if you're listening, just know that your boy Soju just got a hell yeet.
Just know it. Just know.
I'm sure that will be very.
He was worried.
I'm sure that will
know.
change the trajectory of his life.
He was worried about it.
Audience score time. Audience score time. There are fewer than 50 ratings for the audience, so still pretty fresh movie, still a pretty low key release on Shudder, so that makes sense. But there's less than 50. That's all it says. It doesn't say the exact number. I'm going to start with Juice this time. Juice, where do you think those 50 ratings are going to aggregate?
I think the audience score is going to be lower for some reason. Some people can get bored with movies that are highly like dialogue driven. So I'm going to give it like a 70.
70. All right. Bob, how about you?
I think it'll be higher than that. I'll take a 75.
75. All right. Well, gentlemen, we have us a ringy-dingy-do here. Somebody's spot on the money. Somebody's going home with a bonus check from Bob Barker. This correct score is 75%. Bob's going to split this week.
With a ring
thank you. I love when Zoom cuts out your
Yes,
celebrations, all of you. It's
Can I get a
very pleasing for me.
Bob, you actually did it right this week. All right.
I know my chant. I know it.
I know
Now you do.
my
Sometimes.
chant. Here's the critics' consensus. Although its story can feel circuitous and a bit baggy, Brooklyn 45's character-driven period horror is elevated by some excellent performances. I obviously scored it higher than that, so I would be certainly I wouldn't be so critical in my synopsis of this film, and I wasn't. So, but fair enough. Based on that score, it seems like that's where people are landing.
There we go.
Yeah. Let's move on to read some negative reviews because they tend to be funnier. I have actually pre-screened some of them, and I will say humor isn't going to come out of this one. There's just not enough. There's not enough cranks in the mix here. Here's one negative review from a certified critic. None of the film's goopy, gory moments can rescue it from its own determination to center its most cardboard conflict. How do you guys feel about that? Because I feel like that's a load of horse shit.
Yeah. Cardboard there's no real conflict going on here.
Yeah.
Everybody just getting along.
Perils of war? Who gives a shit?
Yeah, superficial.
Where's
and
Kang the
flimsy.
Conqueror?
We want Kang.
There's not one Spider-Man in this whole movie.
0 stars.
Fucking ridiculous. All right. Here's I went to the audience reviews because, sometimes they can be a little more freewheeling, as you might imagine. Here's one from the audience. 1-star review. Picture it. You're sitting in a silent room only to hear the most obnoxious buzzing sound in your ear. You realize it's a fly. That fly is Brooklyn 45. It's simply the most horrendous and annoying thing with no place to be and no one to see. Like that fly, Brooklyn 45 doesn't know what it wants to be or what it wants to do.
I think it knows exactly what it wants to be.
I don't think that guy knows what that metaphor is supposed to mean. What we're supposed to pre-assume that flies don't know what they want. I think they want to eat shit and survive, probably. That's probably as much as the thinking goes for a fly, right?
Nope, they're on a journey, Randy.
But flies are annoying, and so
a
is
journey
the
of
movie.
self-discovery.
What I don't that I've never seen a review say so little. Like, what does that fucking mean? I have no fucking idea what that means.
More shit.
Yeah. Eat my shit, all of you.
safely feast upon it.
No.
Oh, yeah.
We are very impressed.
All right. That's the end of Rotten Tomatoes segment. Bob, where you at?
Sweet. There's really not a lot of trivia available on this movie. It's a new release, but again, we are dropping that Q&A with Ted over on our Patreon this Friday, and he does say some pretty cool shit about the production, so check that out if you are so inclined. But yeah, let's roll on into our Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter's a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall look and attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, I think we might just have ourselves a Cooter this week.
Maybe more than one.
Yeah, maybe more than one. Can we go ahead and nominate Paul first?
Sure.
Let's put Paul in the chapter block. Let's see where he lands.
All right, Paul, smug arrogance, clocking it
Oh,
first.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's some arrogance. Yeah, he's full of himself. He's full of American bluster. He's he's got some Limbaugh talking going on in this movie. Very full of shit.
Very full of shit. Manipulation. Want to go with the manipulation?
Yes, absolutely. He threatens to blackmail Archie for starters, and if he doesn't give him what he wants. But he's also, before that, totally willing to lie on the stand for him. Why not?
Yeah. I don't actually care what you did. I don't care that you killed 56 kids. Oh, I do care if you don't do what I want. It's like, damn.
No, his scruples are largely aligned entirely to promoting a white ethno-state America, it seems like.
Yeah.
So
fuck him. Overall patheticness, I would say yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's a patheticness to, here's the thing is like, the patheticness I think is built in to most of these characters to some degree, because like the levels, the depths that many of them, not all, but many of them have to sink to do to what they're doing, who they are in both in the room and out. So like I give it to him, but I think I think in a flatter movie than this, he wouldn't be pathetic. He would just be like a blustery general type or what, he would be more archetypal and less pathetic. I think
I think the most kind of pathetic thing is he is the Nazi that he hates.
Yeah.
He is the reflection of doing a Nazi. His own hatred. Yeah. Yeah. So he is just a fascist.
He's a Nazi without the crowd. Hold the crowd.
Yeah. In this room, he is the fascist. Like he is. Yeah. So yeah,
that's true.
So a Cooter for sure. I mean, looking at attire, he's just kind of in uniform. Nothing really about that changes. And then there's no sexual deviance that I remember.
No, I don't think so.
Well, the only thing you could point to is his homophobia, but I don't know if that's sexual deviance as much as strict sexual adherence, like sexual norm adherence. That's pathetic, actually. Yeah. But I don't know if it's deviant. It's just pathetic as shit. So that solidifies the pathetic point. Lock him up.
Yeah.
Who you got? Who else you got, Juice? You had a list going.
Hawk.
We could talk Hawk. Let's talk Hawk.
Oh, okay, yeah, the guy who kills himself. Okay, yeah, sure. What do we want to do? Manipulation.
Definitely. Like everything he does in this movie is to the end of having this woman killed. Yeah, or to the end of getting the seance.
And he's pathetic as hell because he wants anybody to kill this woman but himself.
Do it yourself.
Not able to, and even his best friend is like, he couldn't do it. Like,
couldn't get his hands dirty.
It's a known flaw is that he is absolutely down with killing just so long as he doesn't have to do it.
Yeah, and that's not the Ned Stark way. Okay, you got to do it yourself.
Dirty.
Swing the sword.
Let us all model ourselves after the Game of Thrones universe, shall we?
Okay, so pathetic and manipulative, smug arrogance.
I don't think we see a lot of that.
Yeah,
I think there's a.
He feels smug when he's not talking about the loss of his wife because he's clearly just sad. But like when they first arrive, he's like chugging whiskey and like, you know, bumping chests with his buddies, and he feels smug in like what he's done with the war and everything. But then he starts talking about his wife, and he's just very sad.
Well, it's kind of smug to like kidnap somebody, like, and put them.
That's the first description I would give it.
Well, I mean, but you know what I'm saying, like to take some, like there. He's not like I'm gonna call them. Like even the integrate, like okay, we'll call the police, we'll file a report, we'll do these things. It's like I'm gonna take care of this, but I'm actually not gonna take care of this. I'm going to put other people in a position to take care of this.
Well, yeah, like, I think smugness. I think the smugness that he exudes is we're told about in the retrospect more so than anything else, because like the smugness of being like he knew that he was asking Archie to kill 52 or kill a bunch of kids basically.
That's true.
To kill
that's
a registered
true,
like so like that takes arrogance to be able to do that. It takes a lot of shit.
I'm gonna save my men and kill. Yeah, 50,
right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. So like, I mean, it's. I think that. I just don't think we get a full picture of what his arrogance looks like in this movie.
Yeah,
so
but
it's kind of a light point from what we have physically seen.
His patheticness is so deep, it compensates.
It's implied.
It's so fucking deep.
All right, I say we lock him up.
Yeah.
So we got 2. Anybody else we want to go after?
Oh man. I mean,
we could look at Archie, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could.
Or Bob. Yeah, we could look at Bob.
Bob's got his patheticness basically for a lot of it.
Yeah,
like he's Marla. Well, I mean, I don't know, man. Manipulation, an interrogator. I mean, that's kind of comes with the job. I think because these characters are so well rounded, each one of them hits something.
Yeah.
I think that probably the 2 we've gotten are the most loathsome and therefore fit the model of what we call a Cooter better than the others, though.
That's true. Probably.
I mean, I think even Archie, I kind of like gut instinct just based on the actions they pulled, but like that's part of the thing is like humanizing somebody who's done something horrible.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he then his redemptive arc is copping for what he's done and going on trial and saying the truth and doing all that shit, which doesn't erase anything he's done, but is like in absence of anything you can do to bring people back to life. That's
and I think Paul definitely represents that aspect of he's definitely the one person you definitely want to get got by the end of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, okay, this guy needs to go.
Yeah. Gots to go.
He's begging for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was asking for it.
He's just asking for it.
Arrivederci, baby.
We got 2. Let's lock them up.
Lock him up.
Lock him up.
Joe Mangs, let's talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Ray and DZ, why don't you kick us off? What you been watching?
Sure thing. Start off with the easy one. Been playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. About 75 hours into this game, and I'm still not even close to being remotely done with.
Wow.
Like I'm running into shit all the time, new shit constantly. It's fucking great.
That's why I can't buy it.
It is a time sink, to be fair. But yeah, there's that. I finished. I don't know if I remember. I don't remember if I talked about this or not, but I did catch up finally with the end of Yellow Jacket season 2. That show's a lot of fun. I really like it. I like some of the new characters they pulled in. The fact when Lauren Ambrose showed up, I like shat in my pants. It was so great. I love her. I love that character that she's playing. There's a couple other actors that are in the mix that I don't know. I don't want to veer into spoiler territory because I would have been spoiled on a couple of things if I had heard somebody talk about it like this. So it's good. I enjoy it. It's a very good horror show. And yeah, it's good. Let's see. Shiny Happy People, the documentary about the NLBI and the Duggar family. What?
Okay. Thought it was Shiny Happy People who didn't have. That's an REM track. You don't know Shiny Happy People?
No, I don't.
Really? Wow. Okay.
No, I don't know.
Post it
I'm
in the
not
Slack
I'm not a
right
huge
now.
REM person. All right,
Okay.
put it in there. But yeah, that will man, that'll hit you hard. It's for those who don't know, it's a true crime documentary about the trials and tribulations of the Duggar family and in a broader sense, the NLBI, who I forget what the acronym stands for, but the evangelical group that they represent, and the absolute insane political moves that this group makes. It is extremely harrowing, and to see it just laid bare like it is in this documentary really puts it into a horrible perspective. I recommend checking that out, if only for educational purposes, because Jesus Christ. Yeah. Also, yesterday was a big day. We went to 3 things. We went to Pride Parade here in DC, which was a lot of fun. They were throwing out little like stress balls shaped like sperm. It was great. I didn't get one though. They didn't throw me one. Bastards. No, that was a lot of fun. Lots of freebies, lots of corporate groups, and then at least one like actual socialist group in the parade that was just like "fuck Booz Allen" or whatever on the mic, like right behind Booz Allen, right? Like all the military contractors. We're not here with the military contractors. And I was like, holy shit, this is real as fuck. No, but it was a lot of fun. Mostly just people having a good time. Then also watched the traveling production of Hadestown, which was a lot of fun. Also, it was not my favorite musical I've seen or whatever, but like I definitely enjoyed the music. Some of the set pieces were really cool. Some of like the choreography and the lighting and things like that were really, really cool. And the singing was fucking on point. We saw that here in DC and it was a lot of fun. Recommend that. And then last but not least, I got to see AJJ in concert last night with openers Glady and Oceanator. And that was fucking fabulous. I can't believe how many fucking songs AJJ ran through. It was like 30 fucking songs. It was crazy. We didn't get back till 1 a.m. We got there at 8.
Damn.
Damn.
Yeah. It was fucking fabulous. So that was what I've been watching and doing for the past several weeks. So
Badass. Juice, what about you?
So I watched Thirst, as I mentioned before, in order to do the Plug It Up feature. And I've seen that movie many a times now, but it actually kind of came at a reasonable time because I have been going through a lot of Pak Chan-wook's other work that I hadn't seen. And so it was nice to kind of go back and compare. I do think there's some of his later films that he has kind of polished out some of the problems that I had with Thirst, but overall I still really enjoy it. And it was fun to have that kind of conversation with Caitlin about it. I watched, Miles posted a kind of clip of this. I didn't realize what it was from or like what it was referencing, but there's this video on YouTube that's called Sick New World, the new metal movie. It's actually only 20 minutes long. So this is something I didn't realize was kind of happening. I guess like I know songs and stuff like blow up on TikTok and stuff like that, but I guess new metal is like really resonating with the younger generation right now.
And you say new metal, you mean NU metal?
Yes, yes,
okay.
Yeah,
like
NU metal, like Korn,
right.
and Limp Bizkit and Deftones, yeah. So it's having this. So they go to this festival. So it's a play. It's the festival is called Sick NEW World, Sick New World, but the documentary is called Sick NU World, like. Focusing. So, but anyway, so they go there, and they're talking to people, and they're talking like at one point they show up in Las Vegas, and they're just talking to these skater kids, and they're like, "Oh, I see your shirts," and like, what does like new metal mean to you? It's wild. It kind of blows my mind because these people are talking about, you know, oh, I first heard Korn on this, like my first iPod that my brother gave me. And so it's just weird to hear about the generation that y'all like grew up in. We had such a like experience with, and and like hear a different generation talk about it. It's really wild. Also too, there's this quote about like, it was the last time like rock music was really like popular or like famous or whatever. And then that's where the development of rock stopped or whatever. And I was like, oh, no. Jesus Christ. Like, what's happening? So it's got a lot of cringe to it. They interview some people. Man, if anyone's out there, any guys, let me have a one-to-one talk with you real quick. If you're out there and you're thinking you can't get chicks, you can, because there's some swirly ass motherfuckers out there like
what
walking around.
Swirly?
Dude, I'm tired. They do this kind of breakdown too of like these different segments of new metal, and one of them was like meth rock, and it like Korn was the kind of the. It's just
sorry, meth rock.
It's just like, anyways, that's an interesting little video.
And
and
Nancy
like
Reagan and me is cringing.
Meth,
some people they talk to out there. Oh God, it's Oh, it was weird. It's a weird experience to watch. I just like, I listen to some of that stuff out of like nostalgia, but it's weird to think about kids picking it up now.
I don't think there's a new metal band that I particularly liked ever.
I mean, Deftones for
you
sure.
Guys
We
were
joke
into
about this.
some of them.
Is always
Solid,
like on
yeah.
the Goth Sex Night playlist for sure.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
that's the go-to. But I mean,
I didn't do those guys. Really.
But anyways, so another movie I watched, Sisu, Sisu.
That's a new
It's
one.
I might do a mini cast on it. It's a Finnish movie. It's essentially like a Finnish John Wick, talking about Nazis. It's set in World War II, and it's this Finnish gold miner who I guess there's Nazis invading Finland, and he encounters a group of them and just fights them. And like it's very action oriented, but it's also like very gory. I mean, he is like blowing people up with landmines and shit like that, and he's like getting cut open and then like stapling his flesh back together and shit like that. So it was pretty entertaining, very like John Wick-esque, but it's got some campiness to it that they kind of like lean into, and overall it was pretty entertaining. And yeah, I'll probably do a mini cast on that one. But that is all I've been watching. Bob, what you been watching, my guy?
Not a ton of stuff, honestly. Ever since HBO Max just became Max, they now have all of Anthony Bourdain's stuff from No Reservations and also Parts Unknown. So I started at the beginning of No Reservations, and I like blasted through the first season. I'm on the second season already. I'm just going to go through all that and then all the Parts Unknown stuff. Just like I haven't seen most of that in quite a while. So it's been kind of like a fun like blast from the past. I used to watch that stuff as it was airing like when we were in college. Yeah. And I forgot how like goofy his earlier No Reservation shows were. He makes the cheesiest jokes and like tries to like riff off of these like classic movies in a way that just weren't a part of the Parts Unknown stuff. It was just like, I don't know, just cleaned up. It was like way more refined. And I don't know, it's like super fucking endearing. I forgot about like how cheesy it was.
He was just a guy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just a guy taken from a kitchen.
Yeah, he was cooking one day and then he was in Egypt the next, and like
that's wild.
That's nuts, man.
I've been really enjoying rewatching that stuff. And the only other thing I've really been watching in preparation for the second season of The Bear on Hulu, I'd started rewatching the first season because it's fucking great.
When does that drop? Do you know?
It's the end of the
soon.
month. It's I don't know the exact day, but it's the end of June. So
God, yeah, I'm
maybe a couple weeks. I love that first season, and that also like sort of ties in a little bit to No Reservations and Bourdain being a chef and stuff.
Well, yeah,
behind the
whole
scenes.
culture. Yeah.
So if you're into like, I don't know, chefs going nuts trying to desperately keep a restaurant together, check out The Bear. It's fucking great. That's really it, though.
Speaking of great acting, yeah. Tour de force.
Yeah, that's all I've been watching. We don't have any voicemails this week, but if you guys are listening and want to call in and leave a voicemail for next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Do you guys have any prompts you want to throw out for next week?
Well, next week we're doing Child's Play, right?
We are, yeah. The original Child's Play.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, what was your original like childhood toy? Like, did you have like your iconic cling to childhood toy that you had as a kid?
That's a good one. Yeah.
I would also like to know, in addition, what there's a schism in the Child's Play community about whether or not you are sort of like the Jennifer Tilly era or the original era Child's Play personality. And I'm sure there's other denominations. Let's be real. But I want to know who falls into which category. If you feel strongly about one of those two being superior in a very real way, call in and let us know. Are you a before Tilly or post Tilly type of guy with that franchise?
Pre or post Tilly
type of person. Yeah,
I'm a Seed of Chucky exclusive guy. That's
all right.
Just that one.
It's like the rarest blood type. Them.
Yeah. Just that one.
That's the only one you need to see.
Damn.
It isn't, by the way. Call in. Let us know about your childhood toys and which side of this coin you land on. Pre or post Tilly Child's Play. 904-638-3231. Yeah, we'll be back next week talking about the original 1988 Child's Play. Find us on all your social media outlets. Just search Straight Chilling Podcast. We will pop up, I assure you. If you want to join in our daily Slack channel conversations, just hit us up on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link. You can follow that, join our Slack community. We're 100 strong now. It's a really positive, supportive group of horror nerds, and we talk about movies and TV shows, of course, but we trade recipes and talk about our cats and our dogs and, all kinds of
shit. We post music videos, Shiny Happy People. Randy's never heard
Lord knows we talk kinks.
We talk kinks, but not
in a respectful way. We keep it.
Yabos die tonight. Yabos die.
We keep it within the realms of HR approved.
It is.
It is HR. Kathy from HR would not have it in.
Safe for work. Yeah, we assure you. Join us on Slack. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
And Old Glory waving.